Discord. First off, I just want to say hello, everyone, and thanks so much for everybody being on with our virtual book tour. I'm Chip Baker, and this is my good friend Tammy Matheny, and we've been doing the book tours for a few months now, and really just wanting to highlight and show appreciation to some amazing authors. And so, Tammy, I'll pass it over to you.
All right, we're excited to have the special guest that we do tonight. I know I say this every book tour, but I have no doubt Chip and I will say the same thing at the end.
Yes.
But we're just amazed by the people that we've been blessed that are in our lives and that we can now share with other people. So looking forward to hearing some good nuggets tonight. And Chip, we'd like to hear. Well, before we start, um, people always ask, like, how can I support you? And you don't have to buy a book to support someone. And so these are just some ways that you can support your favorite author without necessarily having to buy their book. Follow them, share, retweet, write reviews. I never realized how big reviews were until I became an author. Now I feel guilty for all those times I didn't write someone a review. So that is important. And just share the word. Tell your friends and family. And that's what we hope you'll do with these authors tonight. So, Chip, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right. So the first book that I'd like to highlight is Effective Conversation to Ignite Relationships. And, this is my second book, and it's co-authored with Dr. Oliver T. Reed. I connected with him through the Success Chronicles, where I interview people to share their stories for positive inspiration and motivation. And, we got together and we hit it off really well. And we did topic sessions, like one each week for a month. We were like, man, this is some good stuff. We need to put it in a book. And so we decided to put it in a four book series. And this is the second book of the four. We still have to do the other two. But, effective conversation to ignite relationships. And the quote that I start off with in the book is from one of my former pastors. And it's our life moves at the speed of our relationships. And if you think about that, man, those people that are doing amazing things have great relationships in their life. And those that are not doing so well, they probably need some better relationships in their life. And the key component to having those great relationships is your conversation, your communication. And so, really, we just break down tips in the book to help one, communicate effectively. We did some good research, got some tips from other people. So it's not just our two perspectives, but we had brought some others in there, and it's really good. I'll just tell you a funny about myself on the book. Uh, and all of you guys that are on are authors, so the whole process of writing and getting it edited and getting it back and proofreading and all of those things. But when I got it back from the proofread, like I was reading through the book, I was thinking like, man, who wrote this book? This is some good stuff right here, right? And, like it blessed me, like to read the things that that came out of it. It really surprised me, right? And it was really great. So I hope that everyone can pick that book up and check it out, and hope that it'll bless you as well.
Boom, Chip.
Boom. Let's go. All right. And then the second book that I'll highlight is The Formula Chart for Life. And it's my fourth book. I put that book out during COVID. And man, this is a good one for me as well. Growing up, I struggled in math. As far as I can remember in my life, I had problems with math. Right. And even in college, I think the professors, I barely passed the math classes that I had to have. I think the professors gave me that because they was tired of seeing me and tired of me bugging them, asking them questions. So they probably just passed me, but I took it and ran with it anyway. But then when I graduated college, I got into my profession, education, as a teacher and coach. And in there, I teach special ed, and I was able to teach a resource math class. And I also co-taught chemistry. I saw that in there, in the math classes that I took, as well as the one that I was teaching, there's formula charts, right? And so with formula charts, you plug in, what you have, and you get the answers, and it simplifies it. So I was thinking to myself, that can apply to life, right? And so I started taking notes. And so, the book is, formulas. right? And it's comprised of formulas that really, help people, you know, achieve success in their life. And so that's the formula chart for life. And now I'll pass it over to you, Tammy.
And the formula chart for life, I've had the privilege of reading it, and great formulas there. I wasn't necessarily the math person either, but definitely my hardest subject in school was writing. And so the confident athlete was kind of what broke that chain around my ankle that I had, that mindset that I couldn't write. And just developing the confidence that I had in other things and realizing I could write. And I just took my, as I call it, go to speech that I would give to athletes, teams, and sports I work with and put it in a book. Gives you the application, shares the story of it put in action, and then gives you some exercises to use to help build and maintain your confidence. I think right now, as we're dealing with COVID and everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of us are struggling with change. And I think as long as you have confidence, there's that sureness that you are going to be able to come out of the adversity that you're going through. And that leads me to my next book, This Is Good. And it is about dealing with adversity. It was released right at the outbreak of COVID. By no means was that coordinated at all. But it's about my journey, and I share my favorite folktale, and it's called This Is Good. If people would like to read the folktale, I give the link there. But the whole idea about this premise is that nothing is good or bad until you decide it is. And how can we focus on what is instead of looking at something as bad? And one of the key principles I talk about in the book is just staying in the present moment. And how do we learn that skill? And I give some practical exercises of how we can harness that and work every day, like athletes work on their physical skills, we can work on learning to stay in the moment. And if we learn to stay in the moment, then we are so much easier to able overcome the adversities that we're facing. So whether it's COVID, losing a game, losing a job, anything else in between that, This Is Good tries to give principles that will help you learn how to see adversity as a good thing and ways to help overcome that. And last thing I'm going to share is a confidence calendar that I put out each month. It's free. Please pass it along, share it with friends or family. And just every day taking a concept related to confidence and asking people to read this quote and apply it, or here's a tip to apply. So please take it, use it, apply, share, and watch your confidence build and grow and maintain. So passing it back to you, Chip.
All right. So Tammy, this is good. All right. So our next author, really excited for you guys to hear her story. She's going to blow you away with all of the amazing things that she's been blessed to achieve and what she has going on now. So Miss Nikki Spears, I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome. Great to hear your stories, Chip and Tammy. And Tammy, I love that This Is Good because it segues right into my book, The Beauty Underneath the Struggle, creating your buzz story, which is also about changing the way we look at our struggles and looking at our struggles as wonderful opportunities to be great. And so this book came about during COVID as well, guys. I had stopped traveling and was not able to meet some of the engagements that I had, so I did a lot of writing. And I had been working on this book in the process, but was able to finish up and send it to print during COVID, and it was just in time. So a lot of things that people will read in the book are things that have happened during COVID. And so I was able to capture stories from people just like us, just normal people who have overcome great challenges. One of the people in my book that I write about is my cousin. She lost her son, I think it was a year prior to me sending this to print. And she lost him to gun violence in college, while he was away at college. And she talks about how she started to see his life as an opportunity for her to help other people. And so it's in these times of challenges that when we rise to the occasion, that we can do amazing things. But if we look at these challenges as something negative that's being done to us, it's going to be hard for us to rise to a level of actually moving into our purpose. And so this book challenges people to actually move into their purpose so that they are living out their why. Each chapter in the book begins with be, B-E. And when you think about that word be, it means to be still, to be at peace, to do nothing. And when we are faced with such great challenges, we find ourselves just busy doing a whole lot of things. And sometimes it's important for us to just be still. And so when you think about be and then the action that occurs after be, we are able to move into that much stronger. For instance, be responsible. I know that in order for me to be responsible, I first have to be. I have to be present, like Tammy, you and Chip were talking about. And I think a lot of our books probably have the same type of thing where we are challenging people to be their best selves. It's just the way we say it may be a little bit different, but I believe the messaging is the same. And our messaging, the way that we say it, will appeal to different audiences. And that's why I love the platform you guys have created, because Tammy, you may say something that may be the same as Chip, and then I will come behind you and say it, and it's totally different, but we're able to reach so many people, and so will everybody else on this call tonight. And so I'm just so excited to be a part of this. I've also written 2 children's books. My children's books are really written to help children learn these skills that we're talking about early in life. It's so important that our kids learn to transform negative things, worrisome thoughts. How do they do that so they can live a more purposeful life? So my first book is The Hand Hug, and I just released a second children's book titled Kindness is Contagious Too. So it's all about what can we do during this moment of COVID so that our children are concentrating on the things that are good and not necessarily those things that they can't change. What can you do in this moment? So guys, thank you again for having me, and thank you for allowing me to talk about my work.
Awesome.
Thank you, Nikki. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Tammy, in our normal tradition, I got to hit her with a boom. Let's go.
And I have to follow up with this is good.
This is good. All right. Our next author, great guy, great experience. He and I have done some work together with John Gordon stuff, and I can't wait to let you guys hear his background experience, and excited for him with his book. So Dennis Mellon is up, Mr. B or Bean.
Thanks, Chip and Tammy. I really appreciate it. It looks like there's a common theme tonight going through a lot of these, facing adversity and how to deal with it. But what I want you to do right now is just close your eyes for a second and picture yourself. You're an airline pilot for the 5th largest air carrier in the United States. You fly a Boeing 737. And yesterday, you flew from your home base of Seattle down to San Diego and back. Great day. Beautiful skies, smooth ride, 160 passengers or so. Pretty big, heavy workload on the climb out of Seattle. You get up to cruise altitude, and you let your mind drift just a little bit. And you're kind of looking down into the the city of Eugene, Oregon, going, hey, look at those guys down there. I wonder what they're thinking about. And of course, they're probably on the ground going, hey, look at those guys up there. Wonder what they're thinking about. And it suddenly hits you. 30 plus years of professional flying, and you're making it look easy. Little did you know how quickly things were going to change. You kind of stayed up or got in a little bit late last night, got up late this morning. Everybody's off to school or off to work. Throw open the curtains to your living room, and here's this stunning view of the Snoqualmie Valley, foothills of the Cascades, Mount Si in the background. The sky is so blue it hurts your eyes. And you decide that as a 56-year-old, today is the day that you want to go out and take your third bike ride of the week, because in Seattle, there's not too many of those left in October. You get decked out in modest black biking shorts, dry fit, black dry fit. I mean, you don't want to look like Nino Balducci of the Italian biking team. I mean, have you seen those guys? Some of those guys look like they would make Mardi Gras revelers look like they're wearing business casual. Anyway, you're just an average bike enthusiast. You head out to the trail. You get that exhilarating feeling of climbing up a big hill and then coasting down between the trees, kind of like you did when you were a kid skiing in the mountains of Colorado. Or that exhilarating feeling you used to get flying your Air Force trainer at Mach 1 with your hair on fire, doing loops and rolls between sun-split clouds. Well, about 2/3 of the way up that hill, you have a serious heart attack. Well, I'm not so sure there's anything less than a serious heart attack. But anyway, that's a different discussion. But that really wasn't you. That was me. It was the beginning of a long rehab process, bouts of depression, self-doubt, the dark cloud of, what am I going to do now? I'm 56 years old. You know, then you get a little gumption and you think, well, I'll just work hard at rehab and go back to work as soon as the doctors and the FAA let me go back. Or am I really going to have to go back to male hand modeling? No. Takes More Than Heart is my story of how a kid at 10 years old until my heart attack in 2008 had a singleness and purpose. Everything had revolved around becoming a professional pilot and doing that until I retired. Because it was a job that I never felt like I worked a day in my life. Of course, if you ask my friends, I've never worked a day of my life anyway, but what do they know? So how does a person who's worked his entire life towards a goal, flying, or an athletic career, or a business handle that challenge? Can you find that equivalent purpose, that equivalent feeling of never working a day of your life? Do you look for the opportunities or do you just slump your shoulders forward, look down and say, what are you going to do? And slowly slip towards Geezerville, where your days a Barker Lounger and a cool drink, maybe the remote and some Oprah reruns. Or I could have fallen back to being just my wife's trophy husband, although I've been doing that for 37 years and there's not much challenge or purpose in that. So it takes more than heart. Changing the journey's challenges into opportunities provides an outline, a roadmap, a do-over, a reroute. Actually, it describes my process for dealing with challenges with persistence, perseverance, and grit. And it's kind of like driving, say you and I were driving from Chicago down to Disney World. We could go through Nashville, Knoxville, Memphis, shorter routes, longer routes, scenic routes. There could be accidents and things along the way. But just like when you drive your car at night, your headlights only cover about 200 feet. Even in the daytime, you have to take care of that next 200 feet and then the next 200 feet until you finally get to your goal. That's what Takes More Than Heart is about. Persistence, perseverance, grit. And you thought that it was a hokey pokey is what it was all about. Anyway, that's my book, Takes More Than Heart. And I'll turn it back over to you, Tammy and Chip.
Well,
All right, thank you, Dennis. I'm excited. I just got my copy and excited to read this. So thank you for sharing your journey.
well, not only
I appreciate the time. Thanks.
not only has he protected our country, but male hand model a trophy husband, and lets us know that it takes more than heart. Man, this is good. Okay. Thanks.
All right, we're gonna move on that one.
Yeah. Thanks, Dennis, for sharing that, man. I didn't know that about you, man. But so our next author that we're going to, man, Rennie Kern. And Rennie Kern, bad dude, has been blessed and fortunate to achieve some really neat things as far as his career, and truly doing great stuff to give back. And I'm so excited to hear his story. So, Rennie, you're up next, my man.
All right, man. Thanks so much, Chip and Tammy.
Yes, sir.
Amazing platform and everybody that shared so far. I've been truly inspired by just the work, man. I know it's not an easy thing. Just putting your heart out there and being vulnerable and sharing that with the world, your journey. And it was no different for me, just becoming an author at the age of 23 is when I wrote the first book, Free Agent. And it was not something I ever thought of. Tammy, you mentioned just not believing that you were a writer and going through that journey. I know I wasn't a writer. Like, I was literally the kid in class who got all the red marks, could not figure out where to put the commas, like any of that stuff. Like, I was just, only time I tell people, the only time I like writing a book or writing anything is if I was trying to get a girl's number and I was writing her a love letter. Like, that was the only time. Then I was like Shakespeare then. But
you pulled out the skills.
Yeah, pulled out the skills, man. You know, like, do you like me? Yes or no? And that was about the only time. So, but it's crazy that Dennis went before me because our journeys are very similar. And when I look back on that whole process, for me, of course, being an athlete, it was like I went through a midlife crisis, which is what a lot of us go through that we don't even realize. But when you go from chasing something your whole entire life, like Dennis mentioned, and then it just ends, and you're all of a sudden left in this place where you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. It becomes very much similar to what Dennis went through. But the difference is, as an athlete, you know, by the time you're 30 years old, you're considered old. You know, for me, I got cut the first time at 22 years old. 22, 23 years old. So I played at University of Georgia, had an amazing career, 3-time All-American, Buckets Award finalist, Lombardi Award finalist, team captain, all these great accolades. Was able to leave early and was drafted by the Tennessee Titans. 3rd round, everything was going great. Was able to help my family. My daughter was about 2 years old at this time. So I'm like, you know, I can take care of you. I was able to help the community. And not too long after my career started, my second year, not only did my coaching staff get fired, but the lockout also happened with the NFL. So there was just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of different changes going on. And so came back my second year, went through training camp. Everything was going great. But the new staff that came in, drafted new guys, brought in one guy through free agency. And you guys know how it goes when you bring in a new regime. So ended up getting cut just after my second year, which is like unheard of. And found myself back home in one of the toughest positions of my life. Just I was in that no man's land place, not really sure what to do, just going through the different emotions of feeling that feeling of rejection and hopelessness and feeling lost and not really being sure what to do next. So I did what I always did. I tried to push through. I tried to fight. I immediately started training. I was training 4 hours a day, waiting on that phone call. 1 month passed, 2 months passed, 3 months passed, no calls. And did a couple workouts and whatnot, but just was not able to land on team. And through that process is when I really, that light bulb clicked on for me, where I told myself that I can continue either, just trying to get somebody to give me an opportunity, or I can create one. And that's when my perspective really shifted to really dive into the world of entrepreneurship and start writing. And it was just a mixture of it really started out as wanting to just vent. And so started from there, but through that process of just venting and discussing my different emotions, I realized that there were so many other people who would be going through the same situation. People who lost their businesses, like my dad. He went through a situation where he lost his shoe repair business when I was in the 7th grade. And I saw what he went through emotionally and just feeling like he lost his identity. There are people who went through losing relationships, there's students who came out of college and didn't get that job that they thought they were going to get right away. There were many other free agents like myself who were athletes who were chasing their dreams, and so on and so forth. People who go through divorce. I mean, just so many points of transition in times of uncertainty. And so I thought about all those people as I was writing this book, Free Agent. And I used free agent as an analogy, as a metaphor to talk about how we all go through times of uncertainty. We all get into a place of transition. We all go through that time when we're in the no man's land. We really don't know what to do next. And we really have to face ourselves, right? And so the book really talks about, you know, it leverages some of my experiences, but it really just essentially talks about how when you strip away your job, when you take away the relationships, when you take away the status, right, all the things that the world tells you makes you who you are and gives you your identity, that's where you really learn who you are in the most genuine way. That's where you learn, you know, what matters most in life. It really talks about all those things, like all those revelations that you have during those times of uncertainty. And then not only that, just how to push yourself forward during that time of uncertainty and during that time of transition. So I talk about just forming that true sense of self-confidence, true self-motivation, faith. I talk about humility and the different types of pride, navigating failures. So it was such a powerful experience writing this book. And like I said, I wrote this thing when I was 23, 24 years old. And to be able to just see the impact that it had on so many different types of people was something that I'll never forget. I mean, after releasing this, one of the experiences I'll never forget is when because I went back to school as I was finishing this book. So I was in Athens at this time. This was back in 2013. But maybe 2 weeks after I released the book, I'm downtown in Athens. I'd gone to hang out with some friends, and it was about 12 o'clock, middle of the night. I checked my phone, checked my email, and I actually got an email from a guy in the military who was serving in Afghanistan, and he had just finished reading the book on his security post and was telling me how inspired he was and whatnot. And I was just like, wow, like, you know, somebody who I would never meet, just being able to reach them through something that I was going through, and just using it in a powerful way. So that's you know, something that I will never forget, just being able to do that. And it's just been an amazing journey writing this book. The second book, What Does It Take to Be a Star, is just a book that I wrote after I transitioned in 2017. I had torn my patella tendon. I was moving on. And I got this vision at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's about a young boy who's just like any child trying to figure out what it takes to be a star, what it takes to be special in life. And throughout this process, as I was beginning it, my daughter, she was about 7 years old at this time, loved drawing, loved writing. And so I called her over. I was like, hey, how would you like to write a book with Dad? And of course, being young, she was like, yeah, I'd love to. So we actually wrote this book together. And it's about a young boy who goes on a journey to really discover what it takes to be special in life. And so he goes around his community, talks to different people who he looks up to, and thinking that they would give him advice that's just about their careers and their status. But really, they each give him a different character value. So one person tells him about work ethic, the next person tells him about perseverance, next person tells him about having a good attitude, so on and so forth. So that's been a powerful experience as well. So and I've been able to expose my daughter to entrepreneurship, to public speaking, to all those things. She's 12 years old now, in that too cool phase. So so yeah, it's been fun, and she's even able to learn about royalties, right? So every once in a while I would sell a book and I'll be like, hey babe, you made a little bit of money, here you go. And so it's been an amazing experience being able to do that. But those are the two books I've read. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rennie. And I've been blessed in the past few months of getting to do a project with Rennie and getting to know him better. And he's doing even more amazing things now and making a difference out there. So I'm blessed that you've come into my life, Rennie. But your daughter is cooler than you. So
yeah, she knows she is. You can't tell her anything. So,
that's awesome, man. Thanks so much, Rennie.
Thank you.
All right. So our next author is Clay cuts, and Clay's a therapist and performance coach, doing some really cool things. And so excited to hear his story. So Clay, you're up.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for the rest of the group here. Some great stories. I love being around folks like this. So thanks for including me tonight. So yeah, I wrote Beyond the Bottle a few years ago. First of all, I'm a therapist and a classically trained therapist, and in private practice here in the Atlanta suburbs. I wrote this book several years ago. I hadn't been a therapist. I was fairly new out of graduate school. But a lot of this story came from my own struggles with addiction. And the book goes into some details about that. And so for me, like my whole life since 2006 has been like, how do I get beyond the bottle? How do I get to be more and more? And not just more in terms of like financial success or those sorts of things, material success, but how do I get to be more of a blessing in the world? How do I get to be more of a better father? How do I get to be just more positivity? So this is about addiction on the surface, but it's really about a whole lot more than that, because it mirrors my life in a lot of ways. So here's how I look about human change. Like, think of this long like timeline. In the middle, where the zero would be, is something like, okay, like I'm good enough, right, at this point. Everything below that, so to speak, is where I would meet clients in my therapy practice. So they would come in with issues with anxiety or depression or addiction or trauma or grief or whatever it was, some sort of adjustment issue. And we would work on it, and we would get them to that middle point, that okay point. And then they would go, thanks, Clay, and they'd go away, and I'd go, good job. Then I started having some clients get to that okay point and go, okay, what's next? And I would go, I don't know. They didn't teach me that in graduate school. Like, I don't know what's next. And then I realized, you know what? Actually, I do know what's next, because this is the journey that I've been on, for decades, right? Or, decade and a half. And so what I started doing is leaning into people and bringing them on the journey that I've been on. And a big part of that is fundamentally what I do for people and for myself is tap into personal power. I have this deep belief, like the sun's going to rise in the east tomorrow. 2 + 2 is 4, and everybody on this call and everybody that hears this message is full to the eyeballs with so much personal power they could never possibly use it all. The problem is we get in our own darn way and can't tap into it, right? And so I think like what I do is there's no addition to what I do. It's just subtraction, like moving the stuff out of the way so that natural personal power can shine through. Some people call it divinity. Some people call it balance. Some people, like, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But here's sort of the fundamental piece that I've landed on. Like, how I think about the world creates my reality. And I have all the power in the world to think whatever the heck I want to think. I can think I'm a piece of crap. I can think I'm a loser. I can think I'm not good enough. Or I can think, you know what? This is hard, but I'll figure it out. You know what? Struggle is supposed to be difficult. You know what? This is important enough for me to push through on. I can think anything I want to. So why not think those things that benefit me and that make me more powerful and make me sort of a positive force in the world. Now, I'm a therapist too. So I want to know about feelings, right? The other piece of this too is accepting that feeling embarrassment or feeling shame or feeling sadness is very, very much a part of the human experience, and it's totally fine. In fact, it's better than fine. It's good. And so learning to sort of properly feel emotions and process them in a way that sort of moves you through them without wallowing is the cure for addictions. And by the way, addictions take a lot of forms: food, technology, sex, alcohol, drugs, violence, work. I mean, the list goes on forever, right? We can think of any way to mood alter, which means to distract ourselves from what we're feeling. Sorry, I got a little feedback there, but it's to distract ourselves. And so my goal with my clients is to get them to a point, and for myself, is to live a life with such a strong positive mindset that I don't need to distract from anything ever because I can manage those emotions internally on my own. And here's sort of the last thing I'll share is that the really, really big thing is that, and this is the thing, the place I try to get my clients to, and I tell them, if you can get to this point, you're golden, where struggle equals growth. I'd say struggle is like growth. Struggle is related to growth. Struggle equals growth. There is no growth without struggle. And when we can sort of lean into that and love that, there's absolutely no holding us back, because that's where personal power lives. Thanks for having me here tonight, and thanks for letting me share my story. I'd love to talk about this stuff. So thanks for letting me be here.
I can hear the passion behind your voice, Clay. That's awesome. That's inspiring. So
Chip,
thank you.
Chip, do you get that equation down? Because that could probably be an addendum.
Hey, I did. I wrote it down, but hey, but I had to wait. I was waiting for everybody to finish, because I got to give you a boom on that, Clay. Man, that's some good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is some
But
good
I
stuff.
love, if I can just share, man, I
Yeah,
love what
come
you
on.
said just about the importance of feelings, man, and just embracing it. Because, man, coming from my world, playing linebacker, I remember being 10 years old, man, when I first started, and trying to share how I felt. And, you know, I mean, you being in that world where it's that toxic masculinity.
Get shut down.
Coaches, yeah, like, you better suck it up, right?
Yeah.
And when you learn how to operate and program, your mind is programmed like that, man, from a young age, and then you become a man, and it's like you go through a transition, or you go through having to be in that position where you need to talk about your emotion, how you feel. Like I that was something that I had to work through. I didn't even, and it's like I didn't even realize that I was so out of touch with my emotions. And not only was I unable to express it, but I was unable to accept when somebody would express it to me that they were hurt, because I'm thinking like, man, just, you know, so get over it.
Get tough.
Yeah, like you're not tough. You mean like you're not over this yet? Like what? So that was so powerful what you said, man.
Yeah. So I worked in a treatment center where all my clients were males. A substance abuse treatment center. All my clients were males, and they were doctors and pilots. So it was like alpha, 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 alpha. Like, how do you feel? Pissed. How else do you feel? Pissed. How else? Pissed. No, we got to work on this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I hear you.
Well, again, just, man, truly enjoyed the stories. Thanks to everyone so much for being on. And Tammy wants to talk about, you know, our other virtual tours that we've done.
Again, I feel like I'm on record every time I say this, but very blessed to have the people that we do come on here. And I think I can speak for Chip as well. We have made so many wonderful connections that have led to friendships, led to collaboration, just led to opening our minds up to other possibilities and new things. So we challenge you guys that are on here, that may listen to this later, reach out to these authors, connect. What can you learn and share with each other? And that goes for all of the authors that we've had on our past tours as well. It is an amazing collection of human beings. And the only word I can say is we're blessed.
Yes. Yeah. And really, you know, Tammy, as you were saying, it made me think too, it's kind of like a family. You know, we've all kind of connected with one another. And like Tammy said, you know, go back and reach out to some of the others that's been on it, you know, check out theirs, and we'll share all that stuff with you guys. But man, it's great, and get their books, and you know, they'll do the same thing for you. And it's been an awesome experience.
So we appreciate all of you guys for taking your time and being with us, and we look forward to having you back on our next tour.
All right, we'll see you
Thanks,
guys next time. Yeah, have a blessed one. Go get it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
This is good.
Thanks, guys.
Boom. Minnie, let's go.
Boom.